Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for signing up for this amazing class. We're really excited to be doing this collaboration with Sola Gratia Farm. They were wonderful enough to come up with all of these amazing produce items. So everything that you have in your kit, minus the lemon and minus the cilantro, all were grown with care by Sola Gratia Farm. All of the proceeds that are collected from this class will be going to Sola Gratia. So we're really always excited to fundraise for them. And we're going to be making some amazing dishes that all highlight the peak harvest vegetables, including eggplants and all of our herbs. We even have red onions. So there's going to be a lot of amazing different dishes. And for those of you that haven't joined us for a cooking class before, we usually do a virtual cooking class every month. Usually I'm behind the scenes, but we usually feature different cultural cuisines every month, featuring community members that are interested in sharing their culture and their family recipes. So we are just really excited to be putting this together. So I'm gonna go behind the stovetop here. And I wanted to introduce an amazing person, Tracy Barkley, who has been the director of Sola Gratia Farm for quite a while. And Tracy, thank you so much for making this possible. And we have a lot of people who are attending this class who are going to be they come weekly for their Sola Gratia CSA shares, and we are currently featuring Sola Gratia for our Roundup for Good organization this month. So feel free at the registers. You can round up your total at the registers, and it all goes to benefit Sola Gratia. And so before we started, I just wanted to have Tracy talk a little bit about what Sola Gratia Farm is and all of the amazing work you guys are doing. So thanks again.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Sarah, and everyone at Common Ground that's made this possible. So we've had a long partnership with Common Ground Food Co-op. In fact, our newsletter for this week is all about our partnership with Common Ground. So it's a lot of heart for our neighborhood grocery store and just the partnership we've had over the years. I think that's what makes our farm and the co-op special, is that we're both, it's not just a grocery store, it's not just a farm,
yeah,
community ventures, and it really wouldn't happen if there weren't a whole lot of people that come together and work together. So thank you for thanking me for Sola, but I really want to give all my thanks to our staff. We have 19 people that work at the farm really hard in really creative and awesome ways through all sorts of conditions and with a lot of variables we can't control.
Any weather.
So my heart and my appreciation goes out to John Williams, our farm manager, all of our staff in the field, and folks in the office behind the scenes.
So I'm sure a lot of you guys have maybe drove by Sola Gratia, but will you tell them where you guys are located?
So we're that unusual vegetable farm that is in town. We're an urban farm. We are a specialty crop farm, so we use all organic practices. We grow 50 different vegetables, 125 different kinds. Gosh. We were started by a church. We're a ministry of St. Matthew Lutheran Church, and we're mission driven. There's no point to our farm that isn't to help feed those that have limited food dollars in our community. So that's the whole point of our farm. We know that a lot of people have trouble making ends meet, and especially eating well with a limited budget. And so we do what we can to donate, grow good, healthy food, and get out in the community. And then also teach people how to cook and how to grow their own food and make healthy eating choices. So that means we run a farm to school program now.
Yeah, you set that up. That's amazing.
And we partner.
So what is that? What would that mean? So farm to school?
It's going to mean a lot of things. And right now we have gardens at all Urbana schools. This fall, we're starting a farm school coordinator. They'll work district-wide to get program in all the classrooms. It means in the long run, hopefully we'll be improving dining services and helping kids eat either things that we've grown in their school gardens or from local area farms, trying new things. So that's going to be really fun.
You put a lot of work into that. I know it hasn't been a simple process, and I feel Sola is, I feel like, behind so many different food accessibility efforts. We in April we did a fundraiser similar to this, where it was a cheese making class, a virtual cheese making class that benefited Jubilee Cafe, and Sola Gratia is one of the biggest sponsors of a lot of that food. So you guys always are kind of donating amazing produce for them to use, and that's a soup kitchen. Jubilee Cafe is a soup kitchen that makes everything from scratch on Mondays, and kind of gives an amazing meal to anybody that needs it. And then you do so much supplying of Eastern Illinois Food Bank, and
so we donate about 5 times to 5 different entities every week. So
wow.
Jubilee Cafe, Daily Bread Soup Kitchen, Eastern Illinois Food Bank. So we support a neighborhood Free Friday market every Friday.
Wow.
And then we also donate vegetables to the Carl mobile markets, which goes into 4 low-income neighborhoods and serves a mobile market, literally a bus that you walk onto and can get free fresh vegetables.
So yeah, you guys have been really kind of behind all of these food access initiatives, and I don't know if any farm quite like yours that's like really just doing so much. So yeah, you guys,
it's pretty unique. We love it.
Yeah.
Everyone that works there has a lot of heart.
Yeah. And yeah, Justin Urbana. So it's actually Sola Gratia is this closest local farm to us. For those of you that are maybe unfamiliar with Common Ground, we're a community-owned grocery store. So we source from sometimes 100 different local producers and farms in the area, and we define locals with 100 miles. But I think Sola is, yeah, the closest farm, and also one of the only urban farms that we source from. So we're really so excited to be kind of using all of these ingredients in our menu today. When we met with Tracy, we were trying to create a really kind of interesting menu that was going to feature all of the harvest that was coming out from Sola. So they said that they were having a lot of eggplant coming in, probably the end of the cucumber season. And we've got so many different herbs that we're going to be using today, including parsley. Unfortunately, the cilantro, I think it's past cilantro season. So the cilantro isn't from Sola, but you can sometimes get it from Sola. And then we've got some amazing tulsi basil, which we'll talk a little bit more about, but this is probably actually my favorite thing to grow in my garden. It's one of my favorite things to just have in the kitchen because it smells so great. So for any of you that were able to kind of put it into water, this is a great way to store your tulsi if you want to use it beyond just today. We've got some of Asian eggplant. So these are going to be really nicely roasted. They're, I think, sometimes a little bit more tender than the Italian style eggplant. And then we've got these cute red onions that we're going to be using. Some of them are going to be used for the quinoa salad, and the other is going to be used for our eggplant dish. So what we're going to be making today is kind of like a meze platter. It's going to be a roasted eggplant with roasted red onions, roasted cherry tomatoes, and then it's going to be topped with seasoned roasted chickpeas, served with pita. And then we're also going to make this really amazing and floral tulsi tahini dressing. That will be really simple. So I'm really excited about that. And then we're going to also make quinoa cucumber salad that's going to have a jalapeno lemon vinaigrette with a little bit of cucumber, a little onion, and a little parsley. So I'm going to walk you through each of the stages, but if anytime you are speeding ahead or need more time, you have your recipe cards and it will go over everything that we're going to need today. Yeah, there's a question.
So we got a question for Tracy. How do you join Sola Gratia Farm CSA? Is there a waiting time?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
how do you sign up for Sola Gratia CSA, and is there a wait list?
So that's a great question. I'm glad it's being asked now because we actually will have our CSA shares for sale in October. And there's always a big push, October, November, the first part of the year. Usually we saw some shares going into springtime, but it's hard to say each year what it's gonna look like. We are gonna be making some changes to our CSA program. I'm not sure exactly what they're gonna look like, but there'll be online openings in October. So the best thing really is to send us an email now and make sure you're getting our newsletters. So whether you're a CSA member or not, you can sign up to get our weekly newsletter, and that's on our website, which is www.solagratiacsa.com. And then register for the newsletter, you'll get it. We'll give you plenty of notice that you can join our CSA.
And I'm speaking from a previous CSA Sola Gratia fan. It's probably the coolest way that you could kind of get all of the different seasonal harvest each week. And for kind of how many weeks usually do you get?
So we might change it next year.
That's okay.
But this year we had a 4-week spring CSA,
Okay.
20-week summer CSA, and a 4-week fall CSA.
Yeah.
So we had some options of what
Yeah.
season you're going to be in. And then we do offer a lot of choice so that you can, experiment, broaden your palates, also keep it narrow. And, either you have some dietary restrictions or just, some specific taste preferences. So we have, like I said, 125 different varieties of vegetables, lots of herbs, and we're adding some fruits in as we can.
That sounds amazing. So I think some of the things that we'll start off with is we're going to there's just a few other things that I wanted to kind of talk about. Oh, I didn't mention these amazing cherry tomatoes. We're going to be using those all of those today. If you have time, open up your can of garbanzo or chickpeas and strain them. I've already done that, and that will just we'll use that in just a moment. We also have some really awesome spices that we source from our bulk section. So there's a chickpea spice mix, which we'll be happy to share the ingredients with you on that. I believe that was cumin, salt, paprika, little black pepper. So it will really kind of give a beautiful color to the chickpeas. And then all of these ingredients, all of these dishes will be really good to eat together. And then you can kind of slice up your pita, use your tahini, have some of your quinoa salad, and we'll just have an amazing meal at the end. So thank you guys for all signing up. And I think the first step that we'll probably do is you're going to preheat your oven to 425. If they're down the line, if there's any questions that you guys have for Tracy about Sola Gratia, shoot them our way, or different comments that you'd like to add during the class. We want to make this as open as possible. So the first thing that we're going to start doing is we're going to preheat our oven, and then we're going to start with our eggplant. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to prep our eggplant, we're going to slice our eggplant in half, and then we're going to salt both sides and kind of set it on a baking sheet. So you're going to need, for today's class, you're going to need a small to medium sized saucepan. We're going to use that for our quinoa. You're going to need 2 baking sheets. One is going to be for the roasted eggplant and tomatoes and onion, and the other one is going to be for the chickpeas. You're obviously going to need your favorite knife and your cutting board, a couple of different types of mixing bowls, and if you do have it, either a immersion blender, a food processor, a regular blender. If you don't have that, that's okay. We just let me know if you don't, and I can have some tips for how to modify. I'm going to just be using like a little guy for the jalapeno cilantro vinaigrette. But if you don't have a food processor, you can just chop it up pretty fine and stir it all up in a bowl, and that will be just as good. So, yay. So excited you guys are cooking with me. This is like one of my favorite things to do at the co-op. I get so much joy from cooking. I've been working in the food related business for a long time. I was a server. I was working behind the scenes in kitchens. My mom grew up. I'm actually currently the marketing manager, but I also do our education classes. So, my mom used to be a stay-at-home mom, but she was a cook. So she would cook meals for different families, and so I always got different tastes. And she was one of the best cooks I know. So I'm really kind of happy that I got that experience with her, and I've always been interested in food. So. Everybody will be on different maybe timings, but I'll try and go slow and repeat different steps. So what we're going to do is wash your eggplants. These Thai, or they're not Thai, they're Asian eggplants. We're only going to cut these in half. So we're going to wash them and then take the tops off. And Liz will probably get some close-ups once I start. Okay, so some of you have 4, some of you have 3 based on the size of the eggplant, and we're just going to lop off the tops of our eggplant. And because these are really slender, we really only have to cut them once down the middle lengthwise. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And we can spotlight this really quick. So we just go over to.
Hi, everyone. I'll be doing some behind the scenes stuff and getting any questions that you bring up in the chat.
So you're just going to add a spotlight, and there we go. So yeah, take your little tops of the eggplant off. If you have a compost bucket or a scrap bucket, that always makes the prepping that much easier. So I've already taken off the tops, and then I'm just going to slowly cut these lengthwise. Okay. It's okay if they're not perfect. This is my favorite way of cooking eggplant. If you have gas and you ever wanted to make baba ganoush, that is an amazing, it's almost like hummus, but it's amazing dish that would also be great with any of these dishes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just place them face up. If they were a little bit bigger, you probably could have done like slice them into 3. But you're just going to take a little bit of your salt, and we're just going to do what's called sweating of the eggplant. So I'm just doing a little bit of salt dusted onto the interior of the eggplant, and this will kind of start to draw out some of the liquid. I noticed that when you do this, it will take some of the bitterness out of the eggplant and kind of start to it just starts to make the eggplant a little bit more creamy. Yeah, and then once you guys are done with the eggplant, we're going to be moving on to the quinoa. So we're going to cook the quinoa up. It's okay.
Sorry, everybody. Learning.
Okay. And so what you're going to want to do is we're just going to allow this to sweat for about 10 minutes or so. So we already have some white quinoa, and we're going to wash it. So if you have a strainer, that's great to kind of rinse off the starch of this quinoa. If you don't, you can just use your saucepan and rinse it. But I'm just going to rinse this over the stove or over the sink. Okay, and then I'm going to put the rinsed quinoa into the saucepan, and it's just going to get some water and some salt. So I believe it might be a cup and a half. Let me check. Yeah, a cup and a half of water. And so today we're only using 3/4 cup of quinoa. The first time I had quinoa, it was actually in Ecuador when I was living there for school, going to university there. And they didn't really make it like rice like we're going to make today. They actually just used it as an ingredient in like a very brothy soup. So that was their traditional way of using quinoa. But today we're going to make it kind of like rice. So we're going to add a little pinch of salt, and then we're going to add our 1.5 cups of water. So the salt and olive oil that we're going to use, we kind of portion for all the dishes. So I'm just going to be doing pinches here and there. Okay. So 1.5 cups. And you're going to cook this similar to rice. So that basically means that we're going to bring this to a boil and then put on a slow simmer after it comes to a boil. We're doing this first because we want the quinoa to kind of cool in the fridge once it's done cooking. So I'm just going to bring this up to a boil on high heat. And if you do have a lid to your saucepan, that will be really nice to have because we're basically that's gonna help steam it. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah, so you can have the lid on or off when it's about to come to the boil, and then you can put it on. I'll leave it off for now. I'm using induction burners and a small convection oven. So some of my dishes are usually half the time. So don't be worried if I'm taking my things out of the oven a lot quicker. So, okay. So we're just going to allow the eggplant to just sweat just a skosh more. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to move on to the chickpeas. So you're going to need another sheet tray. And if you have any paper towels, you'll need a couple for the eggplant and a couple just to dry off the chickpeas a bit. So have those ready. And let's see. Have any of you guys ever made seasoned roasted chickpeas before? This will add a really nice crunch to our dish. So I strained all the liquid out of my chickpeas, and I'm just going to put them in a small bowl here. Kind of pat them dry a little bit with a paper towel. And then we're going to use our seasoning mix that we had. I appreciate Liz. She did all the packing for the kit, so she's got it all set up. So your chickpea spice mix basically just has salt, pepper, paprika, and I think cumin. You could technically make your chickpeas any way you wanted, and use any spices, and they turn out really good. So I wasn't kidding when I told you that my stovetop is fast. I'm already almost at a boil. So I'm going to just put my lid on, and I'm going to set a timer. Liz, if you wouldn't mind setting a timer for me. How's everybody doing? So I'm just I dried my chickpeas, put it in a bowl, and put my chickpea seasoning on it. And I'm just going to kind of toss them. Let me see. I can't remember. I think I put a little bit of olive oil, like a tablespoon of olive oil in. Oh, that's okay.
Sorry, everybody. I'm never done the behind the scenes of the Zoom before, and
It's okay. We're gonna spotlight here.
Okay.
And then we find our other, there's two Sarah Buckmans on here, so that's the confusing part.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, be. So this right here, and then that's fine.
Just to go to that region.
Yeah. Okay, so adding my spice blend. Ooh, I'm gonna turn this down to a simmer. Okay, yeah, see how much is boiling already? These induction burners are kind of amazing. And then we're just gonna add a tablespoon of olive oil, and that will just kind of make these chickpeas really kind of crispy.
I had a question. You're about to do 2 oils to the chickpea or sorry, 2 tablespoons or just 1 to start?
Just one to start. I didn't end up putting any olive oil in yet, so just one tablespoon, I think, which should be enough. If you really like them crispy and you want them a little bit more oily, you're welcome to use more olive oil. That would be no problem. And then today, because there really isn't that much of a, some of these ingredients still have a lot of moisture to them. I'm not using parchment paper, but if you want to use parchment paper for easy cleanup, you are welcome to do that. So what we're going to do is just spread these chickpeas out onto their baking sheet. These will add kind of like a garnish or kind of a crouton crispiness to the eggplant dish. So once we put that tahini sauce on and we kind of decorate them with chickpeas and the roasted tomatoes, it will be really pretty beautiful. So if we want, once you're done, we can actually put these into the oven. They're going to go in probably for you, probably 20 minutes. For me, maybe 5 minutes. I'm probably joking. Maybe 10 minutes for me. And now we're going to kind of go back to our eggplant. So if you salted yours, you'll kind of notice that there is some water that's kind of coming out of the eggplant. And I'm just going to dab dry that eggplant. You know, if you were in a big rush and you didn't want to do this, you don't have to. I've done it both ways and it's fine, but adding a little bit of salt will really kind of open up the eggplant. And I think it's been a good system for cooking it. My good friend Sarisha, who teaches our Indian cooking classes, she sometimes cooks her eggplant just by kind of blistering the skin on her gas stove. So that's one of my favorite things to do. But we're just we dabbed the eggplant from the little liquid that was coming out. And now we're just going to add our tomatoes. We have some of the most amazing selection of tomatoes right now. So if you haven't gone to the farmer's market, take a look. We also have a lot of different options for tomatoes at the co-op. We source from, I think, probably like 10 farms, and I think 5 of them are growing different types of tomatoes. So we've got some really beautiful options. If you haven't tried Sola Gratia's, what do you call them? Orange or yellow cherry tomatoes? They're like the sun golds, Tracy said. They are my favorite. They're so tasty, super sweet. And then we're going to slice some, I think all of you got at least 3 small onions. We're going to leave 1 onion for our quinoa salad, and then the other 2 I'm going to dedicate for roasting. So I'm just going to peel these onions and slice them pretty thin. If you want to dice them, you do whatever's easiest for you. But I really like these. These are potent. So I don't think I cried last time, but you might cry, but it'll be happy tears, at least later. Okay, so yeah, I just basically take off the tops, and then one of the things that I do is I mostly use chef knives for everything. Like I probably could use more paring knives, but I usually just take a little slit just so it allows me to get the skin off here. So if you ever making a bunch of, if you wanted to make a broth or something like that, you could save your onion skins and your garlic skins. But I'm just going to compost it. We have a composter that comes every day. We're really lucky. We've worked with MJ Walker, who's been our main composter for 30 years. So most of the time, every day she'll come and pick up our compost scraps. So what I'm going to do is these are very delicate, but they're also pretty potent. So I'm just going to do thin slices lengthwise. And just cutting it down down the middle lengthwise, and then just carefully slicing. Okay. And we're just going to sprinkle these around. Having all of the moisture from the tomatoes and the onion and the eggplant will really kind of end up steaming this all together. If you don't have a brush, I'm just going to use a little bit of my tablespoon and just rub some olive oil on eggplant. And then you can kind of toss it. I haven't done the garlic yet, which you can do garlic. And actually we've got local garlic from Sola, which is the best. At the end of the season, I take our local garlic and I plant just one of the cloves into the soil during the fall time. And then we're basically planting garlic for the spring and summer season. So these are some hardy, beautiful garlics. I'll probably only do 2 or so cloves for this one. Let me double check on that. Yeah, these ones are a little bit bigger. So the last ones I was using were really, really small. So depending on your garlic, you could do like 2 cloves. If you've got extra garlic at home, you're welcome to use that for later. But I want to save for our other recipes. So what I'll do is just crush it with the side of my knife. And that kind of helps break the skin away from the clove. And we're just going to slice this garlic up pretty nicely. Just again, smash and then peel the skin away. With working with such fresh garlic, you don't want to touch your eyes. I've learned the hard way. And your hands might smell like garlic for the rest of the evening. So we've got some
jalapeños too. I
yeah
once and touched my eyes after making something with
yes.
jalapeno, and it was not fun.
Those jalapenos, because they're local, I've just noticed that they are a lot more potent than any spicier pepper that you would get from maybe California or Mexico. Even if it's organic, I just noticed that the fresher the ingredient, the fresher the pepper, sometimes it just is that much more flavorful and potent. So sometimes our jalapenos, they tend to have varying spice, but Tracy had mentioned that because there's been a lot of heat that and kind of variable temperature, that it can be pretty spicy. So I would recommend that we really only, if you love spice, feel free to put the whole jalapeno in, but otherwise I would just do half. If you're really sensitive to jalapeno or any spice, maybe do a quarter and make sure, I'll talk about this soon, but make sure you take the pith and the seeds out, because that will really, that's where a lot of it is a lot of the heat is concentrated. But I'm getting distracted. I started.
For the quinoa.
That's for the quinoa, not for the roasted dish. I'm just gonna slice these. You could even put them in whole if you wanted. I'm just gonna slice them kind of thin, the 2 cloves, and kind of just decorate them on the top. And the last thing that we're gonna do is just a little bit of salt. And we'll put salt around everything. I love using my hands to cook. I feel like it's a cool way to connect with the food. So don't mind me. I'm just gonna kind of fluff these around. Make sure that spreads the oil and the salt. If you wanted to add a little pepper, you could do that. I'm just going to use my quinoa is making a cloud of steam. So this is basically ready for the oven. My chickpeas are already in there. My eggplants are going to come, my eggplant and tomatoes and onion are going to go in, and they're probably going to go in for about 40 minutes, maybe less. Oh, and my chickpeas with this amazingly efficient oven, they might almost be done. Let's take a look. So
I think ours are done, but yours probably won't be just yet.
yeah, yours
So-
probably need another like 10 or
It's been
15.
It's been about 10 minutes.
Mm.
So I'll show you what they look like, but again, our oven is just like super speed.
It's a small convection oven, which means it just radiates that heat. It doesn't have to go very far. So yeah, what you kind of want, and just be careful, I'm used to using my fingers a lot, but you kind of just want a little bit of crisp. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, well, I'll kind of give a reminder in maybe about another 5 or so minutes.
Good
check on
idea.
yours again. But if they're done, if they're crispy, and it kind of depends how you like them too. We like them a little bit more crispy, but we'll check on those in a couple more minutes.
Yeah. So I'm just going to put these off to the side for now. So the only thing that I have in the oven is just our eggplant. Okay,
How's
so
everyone doing so far?
yeah, where's everybody? Are you guys still prepping your ingredients? Are you with me? It's okay, whatever it ends up being. There's plenty of time. And I think my quinoa is looking good. I think it needs just a little bit longer.
Look at the quinoa here.
Yeah, so this is a really good sign. It's hydrating. I think it's almost done. Yours, if there's a lot of water there still, there's still a little bit of water, but it looks like it's mostly all hydrated. And so I will probably turn it off and just kind of let it steam just for the rest of the maybe 5 more minutes.
Okay. Bill's asking about the jalapeno.
Oh yeah, Bill. Okay, so let's talk about jalapeno. So
I'm sorry, really quickly. Did you put it with the eggplant? So we're gonna do that in a little bit with the quinoa. So that does not go in with the eggplant.
yeah, sorry, I got distracted by the jalapeno. Probably because it was so spicy. But yeah, we're only going to use a little bit when we make the cilantro jalapeno vinaigrette. That's going to be going with our quinoa salad. So we can hold off on that for or maybe it's time. Maybe it is time. We can start with the jalapeno. We don't need to put it away. Yeah, so I'm going to start focusing now on the jalapeno vinaigrette. So what we're going to need for that is our jalapeno. We're going to use half of our lemon. All of you guys kind of got a really big lemon. Half of it is going to go for our vinaigrette, and then the other half is going to be used for our tahini tulsi sauce. So we'll have that. What else? We're going to need our red wine vinegar. There's actually 2 red wine vinegars that you'll notice. And I believe we want the one that's bigger.
Yes.
So honestly, you'd be fine if you chose either one of them, but there is an extra teaspoon. One extra teaspoon in one of them. So we're using the red wine vinegar container that has more liquid. And then we've got our salt. We're gonna have our oil. Find your stone ground mustard. Mustard is my favorite ingredient in any dressing. I feel like you could put it in with any vinegar you wanted, and that mustard will really kind of make it a lot smoother, kind of just adds a real dimension to your vinaigrette. And are there any folks that don't have a blender? It's no big deal. I don't have a blender. I brought this little guy that actually is connects to a base that I use for immersion blender. So this is like a really small food processor that I'm going to be using today. If you don't have a blender, food processor, whatnot, that's okay. You're just going to want to chop up your ingredients just a little bit more fine, and it will be just as good. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on our jalapeno. So we're just going to use probably a half of the jalapeno. So bear in mind that the white part of your jalapeno right here, this is called the pith. This is where a lot of the potent heat is. So if I don't really feel like I don't really want it, so I'm just going to basically kind of gut the seeds and the pith out, and then kind of scrape the seeds out. Like my eyes already can sense how hot this is. So just be a little careful. It will be a little bit spicy. So we're just going to chop this up. Not too much, but just kind of rough chop. And we're just going to add that into our blender. What else? We're going to squeeze our lemon. I'm just going to wash this really quick. We're going to squeeze half of it. I've got a little juicer here. You do not need this, but you could just squeeze it straight into the blender. I really love how this thing captures all the seeds, so I don't have to worry about it. Okay. Almost there.
We're coming up on about another 5 minutes for the chickpeas. So if yours aren't ready yet, I'd recommend giving those a look and see if they're being done. And if they are, you can just set them aside.
Perfect. And then also check on your quinoa. See if all the water has evaporated. If so, then just put it off to the side to steam a little bit more. Once we are ready for our quinoa, we think it's fully done. We'll put it in a bowl and we'll put it in the fridge just so it can cool a little bit, so that we can have a cooler salad. But for now, we're still doing the vinaigrette. So half of my lemon is squeezed and adding that to the blender. There we go. Smells so good. What else? We're gonna do a half cup of olive oil. So I think you guys have plenty of olive oil. Just do a half cup for this. And that's the timer for the quinoa or the chickpeas.
They should both be done by now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we did our half cup of olive oil. I'm just going to put that to the side. What else goes in there? We're going to do our larger cup of the red wine vinegar. Just add that in. Okay, and then our stone ground mustard, we're just going to add the whole thing. So you might need a little spoon. Alrighty. Just a decent pinch of salt. Or what I said on the recipe is a 1/4 teaspoon. That's basically a pinch. And then we are going to chop up all the cilantro. We might not be able to put it all in right at once, but I might be able to put in most of it. If you wanted to put the stems in, you can. Sometimes they're a little bit harder on my food processor, so I'm going to leave them out. But my good friend recommends just putting them in the freezer, and you can use them for stews or chop them up for other dishes, for fried rices. So you still can use your cilantro stems. Okay, and so I think my little blender can only fit probably half for now, and then I'll add a little bit later. So I'm just packing as much as I can in, and we're just going to blend this up. So, and it's okay if we have a chunky dressing. If you want it really, really smooth, you can blend it for a long time. Part of the noise. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more. This will add such a refreshing flavor to the vinaigrette. It also, with adding so many herbs, so much cilantro, and all of the lemon and the mustard, it actually really cuts the heat from the jalapeno. So that's one of the tricks that I found out. And just a little bit more. You could leave actually, maybe we leave just a little bit of the cilantro. We could put it all in, or if you have a little bit left over and you think it's enough, you could have a little bit for garnish. So I'll just add just a little bit more, and then we'll use a little for a garnish. But if you put it all in, that's perfect. Okay. So we've kind of got a thick dressing, and this will be really good for stirring into our quinoa once it's done. Speaking of which, what I will do is move my quinoa into a bowl, and I'm going to put it into the fridge. So if you wanted, you could do a hot quinoa salad. I just really like the cold quinoa for this. So I'm just going to put this all in to a bowl here. Oh, another tip that I've learned from our kitchens here is if you really want something to cool off, if you put, or even heat up, like say you were doing something in the microwave, if you put a clear hole in the middle of it, it will cool a lot quicker. So that's just a little kitchen tip. And this guy is just going to go, either you can set it out onto the counter, but I'm just going to put it into the fridge because I don't really have that much in there. And that's just going to stay in there for a little until we're ready for it. Then we're going to get a little bowl for the rest of the cilantro I didn't use. You know, it was a big, you guys all got really big bunches of cilantro. So that cilantro came, it's organic. It's coming from California. So it had a long way to go. So it's local cilantro is always better. But if we don't have it, we can source from other places. Jenny, do you guys have a garden with different herbs? I think there was a couple of you that remarked that you have some of these herbs that we're using in your garden. Just going to do a little cleanup. Okay, so let's take a look at our zucchini. It looks like, oh, sorry, eggplant.
It's only been about 12 minutes.
Okay, it's been 12 minutes. I can see that it still needs a little bit more time. Maybe just a little bit more time.
So ours is getting pretty close, but when we tested it in a normal oven, it took closer to 40 minutes.
Yeah, so you'll need more time on yours, I'm thinking, unless you have a very small convection oven like ours, which then, you might be done soon.
Bill says he grows sweet basil, but not tulsi. He's never tried it and is looking forward to it.
Okay, so I think it's time to talk about tulsi. So we've got,
And then he asked if you got parsley. There should be parsley in there. It's a much smaller bunch. So there was one cilantro, one tulsi basil, and one parsley.
yeah, so this parsley is super fresh from Sola Gratia. We're going to use this chopped up in our quinoa salad. So we'll save this for a little bit later. We also will use a little bit to garnish on top when everything is all plated and ready, and we can kind of decorate it with a bunch of colors. But get your tulsi out, and I would just recommend, if you haven't smelled it already yet, it is one of the most relaxing smells. Some people think that it smells like bubble gum. It is a part of so most of our culinary herbs that we are used to are kind of largely a part of the mint family. And Tracy mentioned that anything that has like a square stem typically is a good sign that it's a part of the mint family. So take a look. So we call this tulsi basil, also known as holy basil. It's technically not really a basil, but it really acts like it. A really cool fun fact about this is you can make it into teas. Like we sell this special tea called Organic India, and they use the dried tulsi basil with like rose petals, and it's known for being like a really relaxing herb to use for your for teas. Now we won't fall asleep when eating it. It's just it's known for its kind of floral aromatic flavor, and I was just really excited to put it into a tahini sauce. There's other tahini sauces that use different types of basil, but I thought this would be really interesting. Some of my friends who are from India, they had said that tulsi is actually native to India and different parts of that continent, and that it's known for growing outside of temples or ashrams or other places in India. And so that's why it gets its name Tulsi, which is a Hindu goddess. And there's actually a lot of cultural background based on this particular herb. There's different sects of like Hindu religions that kind of use it in different spiritual rituals, and it's really prevalent. It grows almost like a weed in India, and we're really lucky to have it. My first introduction to tulsi was actually through Shay, who used to be one of the farm owners of Blue Moon, but she had her own farm, Heirloominous Farm, that was here in Urbana, and she was the first person that introduced this to me. And then Maggie Taylor from Delight Flower Farm got seeds from Shay, and so she started to grow a lot of it in her farm. Maggie does Delight Flower Farm, which is a local flower farm. So it has a lot of history here in Urbana, and so I'm really glad that Sola Gratia is also growing it. It's one of my favorite herbs. So beyond the tea, what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of take the leaves off of the stems. And one of the best ways that I do this is just going down the stem with my fingers. And make sure you don't forget to put these so these are the flowers here. They're about to be flowers. Make sure you include those in today's recipe. These are actually, I think, the most potent. They almost have an even sweeter flavor to them. So it's depends on your preference, that you don't have to use this whole bunch. You could use half of it, or and save some for some hot tea. You could also infuse it in some cold ice water and put it in the fridge and have it overnight in the fridge, and then have it as really beautiful tulsi basil water tomorrow morning. It's really calming. Yeah. So has anyone ever used tulsi basil beyond just having it as a having it as a tea? I'm gonna check my eggplant.
So it's been almost 20 minutes on the eggplant. Ours is probably done and we'll show you what it looks like. But you probably need some more time.
Oh yeah.
So you just want to make sure those tomatoes are bursting.
Yeah, so we're good. We're good.
We're good, but if you need more time, that's totally fine. We said about 40 minutes for you and it's only been 20.
Yeah, so we really just want ours to be tender to the touch. You'll know if your eggplant isn't ready if it feels foamy. So if it feels really dense and it hasn't sunken in, that usually is a sign that it needs to cook for longer. I like mine a little bit more tender and squishy inside, and that's kind of what we're looking for today. So this is just going to set out with the chickpeas. Yours probably need a little bit more, but feel free to test out your eggplant, carefully kind of touch. You could use a fork. I just really quickly touch with my fingertip and see what the texture of the eggplant is. And if it really is soft and your finger goes down into it and it seems kind of squishy, then you're probably done.
Bill says, I'm de-stressing, just taking leaves off basil for sharing other uses.
Right? I know. So this whole room is going to smell so good. So yeah, we're just, there's no bad way of taking the leaves off. If you want to, the main thing is that we don't want to use these stems. They're too fibrous. So any way that you want to do it, will make your whole house smell so good. Tips on making the tea. So say you down the line, you're like, okay, I love tulsi basil so much. I want to grow it in my garden. It grows really well. We usually, I think it was either Prairie Earth or Sola Gratia that donated the tulsi basil for our plant sale this year. I can't quite remember. I don't know. Was it you guys?
We just had tomatoes.
Oh, just tomatoes.
Prairie Earth. Yeah.
Sola is our tomato people. But yeah. Oh, but Tracy says they do have it for sale at the plant sale. So you guys are the Sola Gratia fans here. So you can stock up on tulsi next season. Or I've even grown it in a pot inside during the winter. I was deprived of of plants, and so I felt like I wanted to plant some tulsi. So you're welcome to do that. But what I've done is you can get dehydrators. So I've had the same dehydrator for the last probably 15 years, and it was like $30, totally worth it. You can do all of your herbs, drying those. You could do beef jerky if you're a beef jerky fan. You can do fruit leathers, other things like that with your dehydrator. But I really recommend dehydrating your tulsi if you ever wanted to do that. And then you can just have it in a mason jar, dried, and make it into tea whenever you want. You had a stressful day, just time for tulsi.
Bill says he's going to sign up for the CSA.
Yes, yes.
Fan.
Yeah, and I think there was maybe like more than 10 of you that are on the CSA for this year. So you're in good company, Bill. Okay, so the room smells great. Make sure you smell your hands. Oh, it really has that bubblegum smell to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to be making our tahini dressing. My boyfriend's family they're Jewish, and they refer to tahini as tahina. And so there's a bunch of different ways of pronouncing tahini. There's tahin, tahina, tahini. Basically what tahini is, it is roasted sesame seeds that have been kind of just totally muddled down and blended together into this really thick, almost peanut butter consistency. So I've made tahini cookies once with like maple syrup and tahini. It's some of the best. It's a really interesting, unique, savory ingredient. And so what we're going to do is we're going to combine the tahini with some olive oil, with the rest of our lemon, a little bit of salt, a little bit of red wine vinegar, a pinch of cayenne. So any of the, and then a little maple syrup. So you're going to need a smaller bowl. I'm going to reuse. I try and reuse as much as I possibly can when I'm cooking because I get, as you can tell, I can kind of get distracted sometimes, and I'll just have so many dishes by the end of it that I'm like, oh, sometimes you just you want to reuse the things you have.
And if you've never watched tahini before and you want to buy it in big grams, make sure that it keeps almost all of the oil from the sides to the top. And then at the bottom, you can kind of one meter and thicker.
Yeah.
And we put together before you put it in your kit. And you really want to make sure it's nice and creamy like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So we are going to use a little bit of water. You're going to need a whisk. So tahini and eggplant and chickpeas go way, way back. It's like a very, very old combination of ingredients. Tahini is one of the secret ingredients. I don't even know if it's secret, but it's one of the staple ingredients in hummus. And it's just been known for being a really good accompaniment, a good sauce for eggplants or other dishes. So there's some really cool different Lebanese or Israeli or other Middle Eastern dishes that incorporate eggplant and tahini. Baba ganoush, which I already mentioned before, also uses tahini. So it's a really beautiful and kind of fatty and protein rich sauce. And it's kind of, usually we kind of have the option for a vegan or vegetarian option, but there was just so much good vegetables that I thought that should just keep it vegetarian. And so it's actually not only vegetarian, but it's vegan. So we're going to get all the plants today. But this tahini makes it really rich. It almost has this like this fattier sauce that really accompanies the veggies well. Okay, so I put all of the tahini in, and then we're going to add 4 tablespoons of olive oil, or you could just add the rest of what you have in your container. And so we're just going to add all of our ingredients together. So we're going to add the olive oil. Yeah, I'm just going to do all the olive oil. And then we're going to squeeze some of our lemon in again, the rest of that half of the lemon. If you guys are rushing through the recipe and you just want to start prepping your tulsi basil, just chop it as finely as possible. I'll show you a trick on how I chop my basil or my tulsi. So we're
It's
just
been about another 10 minutes. So if you want to check on your eggplant, so that would be almost 30 minutes total. And so if it's not done yet, it's still totally fine. It might take another 10 minutes, but definitely take.
We're gonna add our red wine vinegar, our cayenne pepper, and our maple syrup. If you had honey and you wanted to use honey instead of maple syrup, or I just like to incorporate maple syrup whenever I can. I just like it so much. Cayenne pepper. If you, it really the fattiness from the tahini sauce really doesn't make it too. This cayenne doesn't really make it too spicy. It just adds kind of like almost like a paprika flavor. So if you're not a cayenne person, don't worry about it. You don't have to add it. What else? Couple pinches of salt. Salt is something that you're going to want to add based on taste for this particular sauce. sometimes the thickness and almost like the peanut buttery flavor of the tahini needs a little salt. Okay, and then there was, let's start with a 1/4 cup of water. So the water will help it thin down, and you'll be surprised at how white this sauce gets once you add water. And depending on how thick or thin you want the sauce, you can add more water. If you add a lot of water, just make sure you're tasting as you go, because you might need to supplement some more salt.
Bill's asking, did you say to add the small vinegar to the tahini? So yes. You should-
Yes,
should have
thank
used the
you.
Big one, which was a tablespoon, and the small one is 2 teaspoons. So if you mixed them up, not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I probably should have labeled them for you.
So we're just whisking this together, and oh, this looks good already. You know, I might add just a little bit. I'm gonna taste it. Yum yum. I might add a little bit more water. Probably like another 1/4 cup or even half of a 1/4 cup. And we're just gonna make it a little bit thinner. Yeah. Okay. All right. So once that's really nice and smooth, we'll set that aside. And then I'm going to show you one of my tricks for cutting up and chopping the tulsi. So I would say, as much as possible, you want to chop it as thin as possible. So what I do is I take all of the leaves and I kind of bunch them together, kind of roll them up and kind of squish them together. And then I just kind of go through.
As soon as you cut into it, you should be able to, it releases even more
Yeah.
aroma. It smells so good.
Yeah. And so we're going to make it a heavy tulsi basil sauce. So everyone will be relaxed and try and thinly slice it as much as you can. And then you can kind of go and rotate it and kind of go through it again. You might have to just do a little bit of chopping. Oh man, that smells so good. How's everybody doing? Where are you at right now? Doing okay? Am I rushing through? And it doesn't have to be too chopped. I don't want it like huge leaves, you know. And if you end up wanting to put it into a food processor, you can. It would probably make it turn completely green. So the next thing that we're going to do is, once you have all the tulsi all chopped, I'm just going to add it to the sauce. Looks so pretty. So we're doing a very herbaceous dinner today. We've got our cilantro, we got our tulsi, and then we're going to be moving on soon to use our parsley. I'm just going to use this and kind of incorporate our basil. All right, beautiful. And then I would taste it, add a couple of pinches of salt if you need. If you're huge garlic fans, you could add grated garlic. Let's taste it. Woohoo. You probably won't use all of this tahini sauce tonight, and it tastes so good the next day when the tulsi infuses even more. Very good. I might add just the slightest pinch more of salt. Salt will really kind of bring out other flavors when you add it to things. So we're just going to do that. Okay. All right. So that's done. So we're in 2 new dressings. One is the jalapeno cilantro vinaigrette, and then this one, tahini. You could have this with like cucumbers, tomato. I think it's one of my favorite alternatives to tzatziki, the Greek yogurt and cucumber dressing.
Made a really good kale salad using it with the same chickpeas, the tulsi sauce, and then just like carrots and roasted corn and cucumbers, and that was really, really tasty.
Yeah, Liz stayed with me between her moving to her new apartment, and we were cooking this recipe up, and yeah, she said that she made the most delicious kind of massage kale salad with the leftovers from this dressing. So highly recommend remaking it. Is really a great staple. It'd even be really good with roasted vegetables in the winter time. So, and if you didn't have tulsi, you could do parsley, you could do cilantro, you could do other basil. So there's really ways that you could modify. You could add more lemon. You could, yeah, you can do whatever you want with this. It's pretty versatile. I'm just gonna wash my my cutting board, and then we'll kind of move on to our quinoa salad. Any questions so far? How's everybody doing?
I've got 3 minutes on the calendar, next time for the so we don't have 4 minutes, right? Go ahead and take a look. If want the eggplant to be nice and done, because here's the kind of starting. 4:15, so we're doing great.
Yeah.
We'll be eating soon, I promise. We're almost there.
It'll be tasty. We love ending the class with the full meal. So that's one of the benefits of doing the meal kits. When we did the classes pre-COVID, we had about 15 people that would be in this classroom here, and everybody would get a smaller piece. But now we're able to do it in a way where everybody gets the full meal and leftovers and everything. So have any of you taken, I know there's a few of you that done a cooking class with us before. Let us know which ones. And there was also a lot of you that this was the first time you've done a class. So it makes me so happy that you guys have been tuning in. Let us know how you heard about it. I think a lot of you probably heard from Sola Gratia. So thank you again, Tracy.
Got a question.
Yeah.
The olive oil is separating in my tahini sauce. Is that normal?
It is. So keep stirring it. It is going to separate a little bit. Keep whisking it. If I would say, yeah, keep whisking it, and it will after like 20 stirs, it will come back, and it will join back again. Okay, what else? Is there any other?
So we're just gonna chop the ingredients for the quinoa salad.
Perfect.
And that's okay.
Were there a couple more comments that came in?
Yeah, got some comments. So Tony said we did an Indian food class.
Yes.
Tony do a couple of classes there.
Yeah.
I got the name. Bill says the Thai Tum Wok was an excellent class a few years back.
Yes.
Not a virtual.
Yeah, I think that was I think that was with May, which that must have been maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe not.
Rachel Matthews says first time for me, actually from Common Ground.
Oh,
And Mike said found from the Common Ground newsletter, we did the ricotta pancakes. That was actually
yeah.
yeah, those are I need to make those again.
Yes.
And Keila says, I remember crepes and pasta. So yeah, those were both really good ones too.
Yes, yes.
They had Quinton and then
Quinton.
Janie's Mill. Was
Yeah, Kayla's our VIP. She comes to so many classes. It makes me so happy. And there's a lot of you that take, I think, Julie and Cynthia.
Hearts.
Oh,
Thanks, Keila.
yeah, it's really sweet. It makes us so happy. Liz and I kind of do the forms to we kind of enter in all the signups, and so we always get really excited when we're like, oh, so signed up. It's like the best day when we send out our new class emails, because then we get all of these people signing up, and it's like everybody's excited. Yes.
Cindy says first time for her, learn from common ground. Welcome, Cindy.
Welcome. Yeah, and there was someone that just moved to town, which is great. Welcome to the neighborhood. Yeah, so typically we do, I think I mentioned it before, but we do a virtual cooking class usually every month. We're trying to do it every month with a meal kit. So it's just like this format, but we've done Swahili cultural cuisine class. We've done Ethiopian, Indian, Mediterranean. We did a Greek one. Usually we don't do a cultural cuisine class taught by someone of that culture. It's either a class that's kind of similar to this, where it's really highlighting the local ingredients. So we are always looking for more instructors, specifically, you know, if there's a cultural cuisine that you grew up with and you want to teach, we are always looking to expand our instructors. I think we're in the midst of putting together a collaboration for next month with the New American Welcome Center. They do a lot of really cool programming and resources for any immigrants in our neighborhood. And I think we're planning to collaborate on Welcoming Week, which is their September yearly event. We're just trying to welcome everybody to our community, especially if you're an immigrant. And so we're working with someone, Tutu, who's going to be teaching a Nigerian class in September. So we don't have all the final recipes yet, but as soon as we do, we'll put that on our website. And then if anybody's not signed up for our newsletter, just feel free to send us an email and we can add you, no problem. I forgot to tell you, I'm just taking the leaves off of my parsley. So if you haven't started that, feel free. Again, just like the tulsi, I don't include the stems. We previously had a Syrian cook. She's like the behind the scenes cook, line cook at Nero's Gyros in Champaign, and she did a class with us pre-COVID. Her name is Fatin, and she kind of talked to me about in Syria, parsley is kind of not only a culinary herb, but it's like she was saying, it's basically like the lifeblood of the Syrian cultural cuisines, because it is usually included in a lot of different things, from meat dishes to tabbouleh. So we're going to get a lot of different nutrients today from all of our herbs, because parsley is known for having a lot of iron. So if you're ever feeling fatigued and you feel like you've done a lot, which I feel like coming out of COVID, we're all a little bit tuckered out, that parsley would be a perfect thing. Parsley and tulsi. Parsley will give you the vigor that your blood needs with that extra iron. And then tulsi could be the good end of the day, winding down, taking it easy. So basically, I'm doing the same thing I did for the tulsi, where I took all the leaves off and then I'm kind of mushing it together so that it's kind of in one ball. And I'm just going to, as finely as possible, chop this up.
Just gonna say one more time, the eggplant's probably done, so if you haven't taken it out yet, it's probably a good time to do that.
Yeah, take out your eggplant. It probably is done. Make sure you just squish, see if it's squishy. If it's squishy, you know it's done.
And we'll just set that aside for now, and we'll come back to it in just a couple minutes.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna do all of the parsley. We're gonna feel so good after this meal. I remember, so when we made this, Liz and I made this together, and we felt so good afterwards. I remember my body just being like, I really needed that. So we're getting all of our nutrients, but it is also going to be kind of decadent and fancy because there's a lot of different components, and we're going to plate it up really nicely. And yeah, it'll be really beautiful, very colorful. Okay, so remember that quinoa that we put into the fridge? Let's grab that. Yep, and it's cool by now. Okay. So actually we're just gonna add all our parsley. Oh yeah, some of it is for the garnish. So we'll leave just like a little small bunch.
And that'll be for the eggplant.
Just a little, just for some color. So just a little handful, little pinch. And then the rest of it can go in. Thank you, Liz. I've forgotten my garnishes. All right, we're putting all of our parsley in. Okay. There we are. And then let's chop up our red onion and make sure you wash your cucumbers. Sola has some of the best cucumbers I think I've ever tasted. They always are they're so. Do you guys harvest them a little bit young so they don't go too much to seed? Because that really adds this nice sweetness. If you overpick, if you wait too long on your cucumbers, I don't know if you've noticed this, but they get sour. They get really kind of extra seedy and sour. So the smaller cucumbers are usually so sweet. So we got extra sweet ones today.
We are 3 times a week.
Wow. JC says that the farm harvests 3 times a week to keep it this size. So this is some hard work. All right, I'm just gonna wash these. I grew up in Chicago, and the old house that I grew up in was one of the first houses on the block that used to be an old farm. So I'm originally from Rogers Park, so now it's very much incorporated into the city of Chicago. But the house I grew up in was like the farmhouse on the block, and so there was some really, really old garden plots that were in the backyard. And so my dad would grow cucumbers and tomatoes, and we had this like really old rhubarb and really old asparagus bush. And so my funny story about cucumbers is I used to like cucumbers so much, particularly the seeds, that once I started to learn, I started cooking pretty early with my mom, that I would just chop the cucumber and like literally gut out all the seeds and eat them all, like hollow out the complete center of the entire cucumber and eat the seeds in secret. And then I would just like hide the cucumber and put it back on the counter and act like nothing happened. And then my dad would go to use it and he'd be like, this is hollow inside. And so it just became this ongoing joke that it's like, just is the cucumber going to be gutted by Sarah? So I don't do that anymore, but I don't really have that. I don't have that availability as much. So I need to grow more cucumbers so I can relive those dreams. So we're just going to mince or dice your last of the red onion. So again, we're going to peel it and cut it in half lengthwise. And then you guys have probably heard the whole onion spiel, but for those of you that haven't, one of the best ways that you can get a really quick mince is by cutting very thin stripes lengthwise. And you can actually see there's striations here that basically the onion is telling you where to cut it. So if you follow and cut these little stripes that go lengthwise across your onion, which I'll do right now. And then you rotate it perpendicular, or you rotate it 90 degrees, and you just chop. You will get a perfect mince. But yeah, that onion is basically telling you, hey, cut me in these places and I'll help you out. So just follow those natural stripes on the onion and you'll get this nice mince. So again, I just cut it lengthwise on the stripes and then I rotated it 90 degrees and then I'm just chopping as thin as possible. Okay. And then I'm just going to add that onion to our quinoa. It's going to be so pretty. Have you guys cooked with quinoa before? Is there anybody that this is new to them? I definitely have to make that Ecuadorian recipe I was talking about before, which is basically, it's almost like the way that we eat barley soup, where it's like little pieces of barley in a really thin stock. But they would have chicken and quinoa stocky soup. So it was really tasty. Okay, we're gonna move on to just dicing up.
Really quick, sorry, never mind, that was, keep going, sorry.
Okay. So we've got 2 cucumbers. We're gonna just dice these up, okay? So because these are so local and were just harvested, they don't really have a thick or weird skin on them. They're actually really delicate. So we don't need to peel these. So I'm just gonna take the tops and bottoms, the edges off. And then one at a time, I'm going to cut down the middle lengthwise and then kind of do what I did with the onion, where I do long stripes lengthwise, rotate it 90 degrees, and then just dice it. There you go. Again, lengthwise, doesn't have to be perfect. I did like three chops lengthwise, and then just dice. And then again. Yeah, you can see that these seeds are they're not even, some of them aren't even really fully developed, and that allows the cucumber to really keep that sweetness. But they also grow particular varieties that are going to be the tastiest. So that's one of the really awesome benefits of local food is they don't have to, well, they do still worry about how long food will last, but they don't have to go, the cucumber doesn't have to go completely across the country and then make it to the store. It can just come a couple miles. So they can harvest it right when it's ripe. Okay, so we've got our cucumber. Where is everybody? Are you chopping your cucumber? Where are you guys at? Let me know. I'm making a mess over here. That's what I know.
Pretty close, after we get this done, it's just plating and then it's almost time to eat.
Yeah. And how's the time? I mean,
1:30.
oh, great. Hey. Well, I will clean up just a quick bit before I add the cucumbers.
And Lisa's just about done getting ready to plate. So I
Yeah.
make sure that when you get that eggplant, you get the chickpeas on top, you get the tahini on top. It's also delicious to dip the pita into.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to put the cucumbers in. And then get a spoon. And I like to not use all of the dressing. I like to top it off a little at the end. So I'm gonna do most of the dressing from this jalapeno cilantro dressing. It looks so green and good. I leave a little bit because you could kind of do a dollop at the very, very end and just mix that in. This is gonna be so good. Oh, you know what?
Keep
We
for a
need
couple of
salt.
days, too.
Mhm.
We were eating this for a while.
Yeah.
It makes a lot.
Do a decent couple pinches of salt. The quinoa is can be fairly bland, but with this dressing, it's really good. Also, if you ever have quinoa leftover, it is actually, in my opinion, way better like heated up with a little bit of butter and a little bit of salt and pepper. I used to have it with eggs or roasted vegetables or any leftovers. It's a really cool grain. It's actually a seed, so it's super high in protein. I really like the white quinoa that we're using, but you could also get the multicolor, or you could get the red or black. It's sometimes the different the color is. Like if it's red or black, you might get a more of a tackier texture to it. So that's why I usually prefer the white, but
Something that I do sometimes, if you want it to be a little bit more flavorful, if you're not adding as much to it, you can cook it in vegetable broth or chicken broth, the exact same ratio, and it just makes it a little bit,
heartier.
yeah.
You can have it hot. You don't have to have it cold. But yeah, this is basically like a tabbouleh, but just with quinoa. And then I am going to just quickly chop my pita up in quarters.
And we're gonna if we should warm it. That's up to you.
Yeah.
You can pop it if your oven's still hot. You can pop it in for a couple minutes, but it's pretty good cold too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it today, but you could put it in, wrap it up into a little bit of aluminum foil and just like the couple drips of water, and just put it in the oven at like 350, 400 for just a little bit, and it would make it hot. And if you do have a platter of some sort, I recommend getting a platter to kind of put this all together. It looks really pretty. So I'm basically gonna quarter my pita and get ready to plate. I remember everything in this.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so pita is all quartered, and then I'm going to start plating the eggplant. And what we've been doing is usually place all of the eggplants down on the platter. And then we have a little bit of garnish of not garlic, our parsley. Just gonna use the tongs. You could use your hands. So I just place these kind of face up, cut-wise up. So tasty. And then one of the things that we really liked doing was put the cherry tomatoes and onions on top of them a bit. They don't have to all go on, but it's like a kind of a nice thing. Don't forget some of your garlic. You might have to look at those later. Some of them,
Get them up, the flavor will still be there.
right.
I'm roasting.
So just decorate, putting your tomatoes on. How many people are you cooking with today? I'm always curious. I feel like there's always more than just one, usually one person. Not always, but sometimes I see a lot of people behind the scenes in the kitchen. So
Everybody says two.
awesome. We once had the cutest attendance from this. I think it was a group of college kids. They all had. Were you there for that?
No.
It was really cute. I can't remember exactly. I think it was the pasta making class that we had like last September, and all of them had the little like chef's hats that went up, like the little white chef's hats, and there was probably like 12 of them. They had gotten a bunch of kits, and I remember that they were all making their pasta in this big kitchen. So I don't know if they were in a frat or something, but they were all cooking together, and it was really sweet. Let's get a little spatula and scrape some of these things out. Any of our leftover onions. Get your garlic. Maybe I should have used parchment. Sorry, guys. Okay. And then what else? Then we are going to do some tahini and then some chickpeas. So let me get this one.
You want to save some for the pita, but put as much on there as you want. There should be plenty.
Yeah, and so we can potentially kind of stagger our pita on opposite sides, make it look nice. That's nice.
Bill says visual appeal of this meal is amazing. We had so much fun taking pictures.
We did.
We the promo. We thought it was so pretty.
We hit that was the photo that we used for the class promotion was from our dinner, and we were like taking all the angles. I was like, oh my gosh. We sometimes overdo it with how many photos we take on something. It's like the close up of the chickpea like 50 times. It's a little much, but okay, we'll drizzle some of the tahini. If you feel like it's too thick, you can thin it a bit, but we want some of it to. And then don't forget the chickpeas. Chickpeas are good on top.
The rest of this meal is pretty with the eggplant and the tomatoes and the dressing. It's a little softer, so the chickpeas add a really nice texture. It's just a really more complex, and it's really good.
And kind of sprinkle those chickpeas on. So we're getting several different types of proteins and so many vegetables, so many herbs. And you can kind of put some of your chickpeas. You could even put some of your chickpeas like decorated.
You put some before on top of it.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did.
Make a little dip for the pita, and you can even put some of the chickpeas on top of that and kind of scoop it up with the pita.
Yeah, that's what we did. So if you want and you want to get it all fancy, you could put it in a little small bowl. And then you can top, if you didn't use all your chickpeas and you wanted to top them off into your sauce, you can. It's a garnish. Well, then we forgot the parsley. So we still have to do the parsley, and I still have a little bit of cilantro. Oh, and if you haven't, I forgot to tell you, break out that Sauvignon Blanc if you ordered it, because that is my favorite Sauvignon Blanc that we have at the co-op. It's really going to go well with the meal. Put more of these in here. We got some of our leftover parsley. And you can do a little cilantro if you wanted. I might put the rest of mine in to this sauce. And we are basically there, guys. Let's see. It's really pretty. We've got our extra sauce on here. And we've got a little less leftover dressing that we can pour over on top. But yeah, that's basically it. Minus the blade. Let me know what you think of some of these things. Feel free to taste it. I'm kind of curious which one you like the most.
We would love to see pictures of
Yeah.
the dish, either now or send it to us online.
Yeah, feel free to tag Sola Gratia in any of the pictures on Facebook or Common Ground. Should we make some plates? Any last questions?
Those is delicious. Thank you, Sarah, Liz, and Tracy, hopping off to eat.
Yes, enjoy, Bill. Thanks for stopping in. And thanks for taking the class. I hope you guys all enjoy this meal. You're about to have a great dinner. Feel free to kind of keep posted on Sola Gratia's CSA. You can sign up for their CSA just by emailing Tracy. I think they are about to announce that CSA in a little bit. And then if you want to take any more cooking classes with us, feel free. We are doing our first ever since COVID in-person classes. We're doing a taste of China. So there'll be a first of a taste of Asia, which we think we only have a couple more, two more. We've got only one more spot in that one. It's selling out, which it's like a four dish meal that you're going to be able to help cook. But it's going to be featuring different regional cultural cuisines in Asia. And then there's going to be a 3-part series, one per month, starting in, I think, September, which will be like Szechuan, Cantonese, and Shanghai cuisine. So there'll be a bunch of different dishes that you'll learn in our in-person cooking classroom. So there's still time to sign up for those. Those are just on our website. If you go to our calendar or look on our homepage, we've got some sliding banners that kind of are showing those. And then feel free to keep posted on our newsletter. We've always got new virtual cooking classes with a meal kit coming up. So we'll keep you posted, but thank you so much. We were able to raise, I think, about $900 for Sola Gratia from this class. So yay. And I haven't checked just yet on what the Roundup for Good is, but I think it had surpassed
I think it's just under 3,000.
just under 3,000. So there's still plenty of time this month that you can round up for Sola Gratia. So make sure you do that. I think a couple years ago it bought a tractor. So there's some really cool, tangible ways that money is really being used by the farm, and it's going towards a lot of food access programs. So we're really proud to be partnering with Tracy and Sola Gratia. So you guys just had a meal based on everything that just came out of their farm. So I'm really excited for you to have some time to eat it. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
And and Tracy too. Tracy's been here the whole time. Any comments, questions? Just let us know. Otherwise, we will let you enjoy your dinner. Yeah, it really means a lot that you guys all signed up. So thanks so much.
Bon appetit. Enjoy.
Enjoy your dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for
Thank you very much. It's fun.
Oh, good.
Thanks, guys. Look, Eli was here. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Eli thought maybe that they might have harvested some of those beautiful eggplants this week
Oh,
or last week.
that's awesome.
And
That's
some
awesome.
onions and some garlic.
And the garlic that's right. That's right. It's great. Thanks. We had a great time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Julie.
Bye.
Thanks,
See you all
everybody.
soon.
Appreciate it. Enjoy your meal.